was here from 69 to 72. And I particularly remember the spine as really kind of uniting the space and being very distinctive where the halls were concerned. I think everybody enjoyed the fact that that was the symbol of unity, I guess, within the hall.
Well, I was there, I lived there from 1978 to 1981. And what remains in my mind is the spine was, how should I put it, the incubator of many personal encounters of an intimate kind, let's put it that way.
That too.
On Sunday in particular, you'd find Irvinites walking up and down the spine, socializing in front of certain blocks and so on. And it was just informally the meeting place, that the glue which kept the residents of Irving Hall together. And to that extent, it was very significant, certainly in my life and the life of many of those who lived at the hall during my period. So it was an extra wonderful part of the space and possibly architecture of community building. That's how I can put it.
Which were the halls, which were the blocks that...
There was D block. I remember particularly quite a few of my compatriots from Dominic originally. And there were some blocks where you had a preponderance of female students. And I think instinctively the male students found out where in particular would be most amenable to interacting and so on and so forth. So there was certainly rituals of communication, rituals of association, which really gave Irvine Hall a very unique spirit.
It's interesting to hear about the ones that were most amenable to interacting. You know? The ones that I remember in particular as being where my friends were A, B, and C, basically the women's blocks. I don't know if that's how it was in your day, but basically those three. And I know that in block B, I had some Jamaican friends in that block. I was on the lower floor of block B. I in particular remember that I had two Jamaican friends on that corridor, and then on block C, there were many Grenadians on block C at that point, so I was, always constantly in between, especially those two. And I remember Trinidadians on block A. So it wasn't a hard and fast division, but I'm remembering in particular where different groups of students from various islands were. And where the spine is concerned, I remember that even though we stayed in our rooms, we were always, in a sense, communicating with the spine, because people who are on the spine, and the spine was a huge landing spot, and people who were on the spine seemed generally to be interested in communicating with the rooms, so that the voices from the spine were constantly quite loud, as I remember. So that whatever is kind of socializing is, well, perhaps not quite whatever. The socializing of a more intimate kind would be quieter. But generally you could hear opinions from the spine, so that even if you're in your room studying or whatever, you're also interacting with what's going on the spine. So I really think of it as the center, at least in my day, it felt like the center, the life of Irvine Hall. And I remember walking down from various rooms to the dining hall, which was always separate there.
Yep.
And then we had formal dinner. The formal dinner day, when we had to put on for formal dinners, you had to be wearing your gowns. So I remember that also, and that kind. So there are lots of things about Irvine, about UWI, yes, but about Irvine in particular that remain very important to me. I remember particular characters who I won't name here, who were, especially in that first year, 1969, particular male individuals who were, I suppose this was the concern with the division, A, B, C, and D, E, F, who were always concerned to ensure that the freshettes were comfortable. So, and then I remember one particular person, Pablo, was his name on Block D. And remember, this is 69, 70, when we're no longer, we were thinking about hair and afro and all of that, and Pablo was the hall barber. So I remember when my hair was cut, Pablo was the one who did it, and it was almost kind of ceremonial. You know, there are people around looking to see, oh, she's doing the cut today, and that kind of thing. So I remember, you know, Irvine Hall is symbolic in many ways, especially of that period, the Black Power era and all of those demonstrations in the immediate post-Rodney era, because I came in 69, Rodney had left in 68, and there were lots of demonstrations around campus still, you know, so yes, so that's Irvine specifically, but also UWI generally, going down to the student union. That period was also when at the university, I remember 2 students being expelled, one Grenadian, one Jamaican, for painting the statue of Christ black. You know, at the chapel. So there were these, and I remember years later seeing this particular student on the streets in Grenada and remembering all of that story from this period.